Welcome to my channel, please subscribe for more, thanks. Scent of roasted corn drifted on the wind, thick with smoke and salt. It curled around the cracked edges of the narrow country road, wrapping itself like a warm scarf around the old black Mercedes that had no business being there. Ethan Blake lowered the window halfway, blinking behind his dark sunglasses as he took in the fading light over the distant hills. His GPS had given up 5 miles ago. His phone, nearly dead. His mind, a storm of noise he'd been trying to outrun since New York. But it was the smoke that made him stop. Not because he was hungry, though he was. Not because he craved something familiar, because nothing was. He stopped because it reminded him of something simpler, something before stocks, boardrooms, headlines, and betrayal. His car rolled to a halt on the side of the road, gravel crunching beneath the tires. Ahead, a small roadside stall sat half-leaning into a crooked tree, the roof patched with blue tarp and tin. Smoke billowed gently from the rusted grill, where golden cobs hissed and crackled over hot coals. She stood behind it, barefoot, wrapped in a faded sunflower apron, her hair tied up in a messy bun. She was turning the corn with slow precision, humming a tune barely louder than the breeze. She was also very pregnant. Ethan stepped out of the car and into the quiet. The late afternoon sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the fields that stretched for miles in every direction. She didn't look up right away. She kept humming, flipping a cob, brushing it with melted butter. Only when he approached did she glance up, her expression unreadable. "Lost?" she asked, her voice soft, with a faint country lilt. "Maybe," Ethan replied, pushing his sunglasses up. "Or maybe I just found something." A wry smile tugged at the corner of her lips, but she said nothing. Her eyes dropped briefly to his shoes, shined leather, city-made, and then flicked back to the grill. "You want corn or conversation?" she asked. He hesitated. "Both, I think." She snorted lightly. $2. Ethan reached into his pocket and produced a 50. She looked at the bill. "I don't have change." "Then give me 25 corn." "I only have 5 left." "Then keep the rest," he said, and leaned against the hood of his car. She paused, one hand on the brush. "You always tip $48 for grilled corn." "No. Today's special." The girl shook her head with a half-laugh, then handed him a skewer. He took it, and for a moment, their fingers brushed, brief, but electric. Her eyes flickered to his face, studying it, but didn't comment. He bit into the corn. Hot, sweet, perfectly charred. Maybe the best he'd ever had. "Name's Lily," she said finally, watching him chew. "Ethan. You from around here, Ethan?" "No." She nodded. "Didn't think so." He smiled. "That obvious? You're wearing $5,000 on your wrist. Around here, folks barely wear a watch." He glanced down at his gold timepiece. Old habit. They stood in silence for a moment. The wind shifted. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked. Crickets began their nightly song. "How far to the next town?" he asked. "About 15 minutes that way," she said, pointing down the road. "But there's nothing much. Motel, diner, gas pump that hasn't worked since before the internet." "Perfect." She looked at him sideways. "Running away or laying low?" Ethan arched a brow. "Excuse me? You've got that look." "What look?" "The kind of look people get when something big just blew up behind them." He laughed despite himself. "You always this blunt with strangers?" "Only the rich ones who don't belong." Fair enough, he thought. He turned to her then, studying her face. She was young, maybe mid-20s. Her skin glowed with that second trimester softness, her belly round beneath the apron. But her eyes, they held stories. "Your husband around?" he asked before thinking. Lily's expression stiffened. No husband. Boyfriend? Nope. He didn't press. Something in her tone made it clear, some doors weren't meant to be opened with charm. So, you run this stand alone? She nodded. Got it from my aunt before she passed. Helps me stay on my feet. In your condition? She lifted her chin slightly. I'm pregnant, not broken. Ethan raised a hand. Didn't mean offense. A tense moment passed between them, and then she softened again. People think being alone means you're weak, she said, turning another cob. But I've never been stronger. Ethan's smile faded. The words hit deeper than he expected. You ever feel like you can't go back? He asked quietly. Like even if you fixed everything, it still wouldn't be the same. Lily looked at him carefully, then nodded once. Yeah. That's when you stop fixing and start rebuilding. Ethan glanced away, his throat tight. A silence settled between them, this one comfortable. After a while, Lily spoke again. If you're looking for a room, stay at Miss Jo's. She's old but kind. And she makes a mean peach cobbler. I'll do that. He took one last bite of corn, then looked down at the stick in his hand. Best $2 I ever spent, he said. Lily smirked. You spent 50. Still worth it. He turned to go, then paused. I'll be around a few days. Mind if I stop by again? She raised an eyebrow. That depends. On what? Whether you're looking for more corn, or more conversation. Ethan grinned. Both, I think. He got back into his car, the scent of smoke still clinging to his clothes. As he drove off, he glanced once in the mirror and saw her, still standing there, hands on her belly, watching him go. And though he didn't know why, something inside him whispered. You'll come back. Ethan returned the next day, just after noon, dressed down in jeans and a plain t-shirt. His usual leather shoes had been replaced with simple loafers. No driver, no assistants, no calls. It was the first time in years he had gone 2 days without checking the stock market or reviewing a contract. Lily was already at her stand, fanning flames, her face dewy in the growing heat. She saw him from a distance and gave a small nod, as if she'd known he would come back. That silent acknowledgement hit Ethan harder than he expected. I wasn't sure you'd be here this early, he said, approaching the stand. I told you, I'm always here, she replied, brushing oil across a fresh row of corn. I thought maybe you needed rest. She raised an eyebrow. Rest doesn't put food on the table. Ethan sat on a nearby stool, one she motioned to without asking. He watched her work. The methodical way she placed the corn, rotated it, salted it, brushed it with butter, it was efficient, purposeful. There was something almost meditative about it. You run this stand like it's sacred, he said. Lily glanced at him. It is. Everything I've built since I came here is sacred. He nodded slowly, understanding. So, she said after a moment. Still just driving? Still running, Ethan admitted. She turned another cob. People here don't care much for running. They're more about standing their ground. He chuckled. I'm learning. They ate in silence for a while, and this time, he helped her, holding the butter bowl, arranging napkins, even slicing lemons for a tangy spice mix she sprinkled on the corn. He wasn't used to working with his hands, but it felt oddly satisfying. By the third day, villagers had started to notice the stranger. Children whispered and giggled when he passed. A few men gave curt nods. One old woman at the well squinted and said, that one's not from here, but his eyes carry heavy things. Lily didn't mention the looks. She just kept working. And Ethan kept showing up. He began to bring things with him. A portable fan. A big umbrella. A better stool for Lily. She protested, lightly, at first. I'm not some charity case, she said. I know, Ethan replied. This is just making things a little easier. Eventually, she stopped arguing. They talked more as the days passed. Lily opened up in slow layers, like a book with pages stuck together. She told him how she'd grown up in foster homes, how she learned to cook corn from an old neighbor who used to sell by the bus station. I never had much, she said. But I figured out how to survive. Corn just kept me going. He told her things he hadn't told anyone in years. About his father's obsession with money. About how he'd built his first company in college, sold it, and spent a decade making deals until he didn't recognize himself anymore. There was a merger, he said one day. I trusted a partner I shouldn't have. It turned ugly. Sounds like betrayal, she said softly. It was. Welcome to the club. One afternoon, while wiping down the table after a long day, Lily groaned softly and held her side. Ethan immediately stood up. Are you okay? She waved him off. Just the baby kicking. Feels like they're dancing in there. He paused, then smiled. You always say, they. Could be twins, she said with a shrug. Haven't had a scan in a while. Clinic's far, and I can't afford the transport every time. He looked at her belly, then back at her face. I'll take you, he said. Anytime you need. Lily froze for a second. Then she gave a tight, unreadable smile. That's kind. But I'm used to doing this alone. Maybe you don't have to be, he said quietly. She didn't answer. Later that evening, as the sky turned pink and gold, they sat on a bench near the field. The air smelled of earth and roasted salt. Children chased each other in the distance. The mood had shifted, softer, almost tender. Why are you really here, Ethan? Lily asked. He looked up at the sky. I think. I needed to find something real. And you think you'll find it in corn and countryside? He turned to her. I might have already. Lily held his gaze, and for the first time, she didn't look away. They sat like that for a long time, the silence between them more honest than any words could be. And for the first time in weeks, Ethan didn't feel like he was running. He felt like he was home. The first rainfall came unexpectedly. One minute the sky was blue, the next it broke open, pouring silver sheets over the village. Most of the vendors packed up and rushed under makeshift roofs, but Lily simply stepped back beneath the small canopy of her corn stand, shielding the grill with a sheet of metal. Ethan arrived soaked, shirt clinging to him, shoes slick with mud. She laughed when she saw him. You look like a lost goat. He pushed his wet hair back and smiled. And you look dry and smug. Comes with experience. He ducked under the tarp beside her. The space was tight. Their shoulders brushed. Rain pelted the corrugated iron above them, a rhythmic lullaby that seemed to drown the outside world. I brought you something, he said, pulling a small paper bag from inside his jacket. She raised an eyebrow. You brought gifts in the rain. I didn't plan the rain. He handed her the bag. Lily opened it carefully, eyes narrowing with curiosity. Inside was a soft baby onesie, white, with tiny yellow corn cobs printed across it. Her breath hitched. It's silly, he said quickly. I saw it in the market in town. It reminded me of you, well, your business. The strength. The simplicity. She didn't speak for a moment. Her fingers brushed the fabric like it was glass. No one's ever given me something for the baby, she murmured. You deserve it. Still, she didn't meet his eyes. I don't want to get used to kindness, she whispered. It always disappears. Ethan's voice was gentle. I'm not trying to disappear, Lily. Silence stretched between them, long and heavy. When she finally looked up, her eyes glistened, but she didn't cry. Thank you, she said. And for once, he didn't feel like a man with a past. He felt like a man building a future. The next few days slipped by in rhythm: grill, talk, laugh, listen. Ethan came early and left late. He helped paint the table, fix a broken leg on her chair, even planted small flowers near the stand. The villagers started greeting him now. Kids waved. Elders nodded. He'd become more than just a stranger. One evening, Lily invited him inside her room. It was modest: one bed, a dresser, a calendar on the wall with faded pages. A photo of her parents sat on a shelf, tucked behind a wooden cross. "Tea?" she asked. He nodded. "Only if you're not putting pepper in it." She smiled faintly. "No promises." They sat close. Her teacup trembled slightly in her hand, and he noticed. "Are you nervous?" he asked. "A little." "Why?" She stared into the cup. "Because this feels like the beginning of something, and I've never had a good ending." Ethan leaned forward. "Then let's make this one." The silence between them was charged, intimate. He reached out slowly, carefully, and rested his palm over hers. She didn't pull away. But then, a shadow passed. A name she hadn't mentioned. A night neither of them could remember clearly. And Ethan began to wonder, what if I already failed her? That night, he lay in his motel bed, staring at the ceiling fan as it turned in slow, deliberate circles. He pulled out his phone. He scrolled back through old emails. Through photos. Through his calendar. There it was, a charity gala from 7 months ago, held in Lagos. A high-end event with lights, champagne, masks. His memory was vague. He'd been drinking that night. There had been dancing. Flashes of warmth, laughter, someone kind, someone soft. A face he couldn't place. He found a photo. A blurry one taken by a friend. He zoomed in. There, just over his shoulder, stood a woman in a white server's uniform. Her profile turned slightly. Familiar. His blood turned cold. He enlarged the image until it blurred completely, but it didn't matter. It was Lily. The next morning, Ethan didn't go to the stand. He needed time to think. What would he even say? "By the way, I think I'm the father of your child, but I don't remember the night it happened." No. That wasn't good enough. He drove. Farther than usual. Past the edge of the village. Into the next town. He stopped in front of a small hospital. Inside, he requested a paternity test. Quietly. Discreetly. "It'll take a few days," the nurse said. He nodded. And left feeling heavier than he had when he arrived. Back in the village, Lily waited. She'd saved a seat for him beside the grill. When he didn't come, she didn't panic. Not at first. But when the sun dipped low and the corn began to cool, something unsettled in her chest. She placed the baby onesie gently in a small box beneath the stand. She closed the grill. And for the first time in weeks, the road felt lonely again. Ethan stood at the edge of the village road, the envelope trembling in his hand. The sky above was heavy with slow-moving clouds, and the smell of grilled corn drifted faintly on the wind. His shoes crunched on the gravel as he approached the corn stand. Lily was there, just like always, but this time, she looked different. Her shoulders were stiffer. Her smile forced. She had seen the empty space beside the stand all week. She looked up the moment he stepped into view. For a second, neither of them moved. The distance between them pulsed like a heartbeat. "You disappeared," she said flatly. "I know." Her eyes narrowed. No message. No explanation. Just gone. "I had to find something out," he replied quietly. "Something I wasn't ready to face until I was sure." He stepped closer and held out the envelope. Lily didn't take it. What is that? A test result. She stared at it like it was a snake. I thought maybe, he began, struggling for the words. That night. The gala. The timing. I didn't remember everything, but I remembered enough. So I took a test. Her breath caught, but her expression was hard. You're saying, she stopped herself, eyes searching his. You think you're the father? No, he said softly. I know I am. Silence. The birds stopped chirping. The flames beneath the corn crackled louder than they should have. Lily's jaw trembled. You, she said, voice breaking. You think you can just come back with paper and that makes it okay? No, Ethan said immediately. I don't think it makes anything okay. I just think you deserve the truth. And I deserve to carry what I helped create. Tears filled her eyes, but she blinked them back, furious at herself. I was alone, she hissed. You left, Ethan. That night, you left without knowing who I was. And I told myself I'd never need that man. That I'd raise this child strong. Proud. You did, he said gently. You have. And I swear I didn't know it was you that night, Lily. I wish I had. But I want to do right by you, now. If you'll let me. Her hands were shaking. She gripped the edge of the table to steady herself. You think it's that simple, she whispered. No, he said. But I think simple or not, I want to stand beside you. I want to know this baby. I want to know you, not out of guilt, but because I already do. I know how strong you are. How you work through pain without complaint. How you laugh when you're tired. How you saved me without even trying. He stepped closer. Slowly. She didn't move away. The envelope slipped from his fingers and fluttered to the dirt between them. Ethan placed his hand gently over her belly. If you never want to see me again, he said, I'll walk away. But if there's even a chance you believe this was meant to happen, even by accident, I'll stay. The tears fell now. Quiet. Heavy. I hate you, she whispered. I know. I trusted you. You still can. She crumpled then, not in weakness, but in surrender. A kind of collapse only strength allows. And when he caught her in his arms, she didn't push him away. That night, they sat on the porch of her small home. She held the baby onesie in her lap. He held her hand. No promises were made. No future mapped out. But the quiet between them was no longer filled with doubt. It was filled with breath. With presence. With a beginning. The next morning arrived softly. The village stirred with roosters and the scent of smoke as small cooking fires lit up under wide aluminum pots. But at Lily's home, the silence was gentler. It was not the silence of distance, but of closeness, two people breathing in the same rhythm after a storm had passed. Ethan had stayed the night, on a mat outside her door. He hadn't tried to come in. He hadn't spoken after she cried in his arms. He had simply asked, "Can I stay nearby?" And she had nodded. Now, he helped her light the morning fire, awkwardly arranging sticks of firewood while Lily, barefoot and calm, boiled water in a battered black kettle. "You're terrible at this," she teased, watching him struggle with the matches. "I built a tech company, not a kitchen fire." She laughed, a small, tired sound, but real. He glanced at her belly as she moved about the outdoor space. It seemed bigger overnight, more prominent under her wrapper. A reminder of what was coming. Of what they were now responsible for. "I thought I might leave," she said, breaking the quiet. Ethan looked up. "What?" "Before you came back. I was thinking about moving to the city. Getting work again. Starting fresh before the baby came." He paused. "Why didn't you?" She shrugged. Because every time I planned it, something about this place, this stand, the people, made me stay. And me? She looked at him carefully. You made it harder to leave. He smiled gently. I'm glad. They sat for a while in silence, sipping tea from mismatched cups. The sun filtered through banana leaves, casting patches of gold over the porch. Finally, she spoke again. What do you want, Ethan? The question wasn't small. It carried weight. Future. Intention. He answered honestly. I want to stay. I want to be here when the baby comes. I want to learn how to hold firewood the right way. I want to build something slower, something that doesn't break the moment the world watches. Lily nodded slowly, eyes fixed on the edge of her cup. And us? He hesitated. I want that, too. But I know it has to come in your time, your way. Her eyes met his. You can't erase what happened. I know. But maybe, she said, voice softening, we can still write something new. That afternoon, Ethan helped at the stand again. People greeted him with smiles now, curious, knowing ones. An elder stopped by and blessed them with a long prayer that made Ethan blink back tears. Later, Lily handed him a brush. What's this for? Paint the name on the front, she said. He looked down at the can. Black paint. Fresh wood. What name? She smiled. He looked at her, puzzled. Then slowly, she said, Cornfields of Destiny. He stared at her for a second. Then laughed, a deep, full laugh. That's what you want to call it? It brought us together, didn't it? He dipped the brush in paint. Cornfields of Destiny it is. That night, they sat under the stars. Lily's head on his shoulder. His hand resting over her belly. No longer strangers. No longer uncertain. Just two people, beginning. The days blurred into each other, golden with routine and grounded in quiet joy. Every morning, Lily opened the stand while Ethan swept the dust from the path. Villagers passed with smiles and greetings, some still whispered, but most now treated Ethan like one of their own. The new sign, Cornfields of Destiny, gleamed with fresh paint and pride. Even the children started calling the stall by name. But peace never stayed too long in places where history had yet to finish speaking. It began with a letter. Delivered in a crisp white envelope bearing the crest of Blake Holdings. Ethan read it once, standing outside the stand, his expression unreadable. Then he folded it and slipped it into his pocket without a word. Lily noticed. What was that? She asked, turning corn on the grill. Just business, he said too quickly. Her eyes narrowed. You haven't mentioned business in weeks. He hesitated. They want me back. Or at least, they want a meeting. Shareholders are panicking. The board wants a full statement to clear the air. Lily's hands paused mid-motion. Are you going? Ethan stared at the flames. I don't know. Her voice was steady. You still have a life in that world. I have a life here, he replied, sharper than he meant. They didn't speak for a while after that. Later that night, they sat on the bench outside her house, fireflies dancing lazily through the humid air. You think I'll leave, Ethan said softly. Lily said nothing at first. Then, I think you might have to. He turned to her. I don't want to. She met his eyes. But what if you need to? He looked away, conflicted. I came here broken. You helped me heal. But there's still unfinished business out there. Things I have to face. She rested a hand on her belly. And what about here? What about us? I'm not walking away, Lily. I need a few days to tie things up. Then I'll be back. She didn't respond. Her silence was not doubt, it was protection. She had seen men leave before. He reached for her hand. She let him hold it. 3 days, he said. Then I come back for good. Ethan left at sunrise. The village felt quieter without him. The children still played. The corn still roasted. But the rhythm felt off. Lily kept working. Kept smiling. Kept hoping. And then, a twist. 3 days turned into 5. Then 7. No calls. No messages. Until one evening, as she packed up the stand, a car pulled up. It wasn't Ethan. It was Marcus, his longtime assistant. He stepped out in a tailored suit, holding a phone and a small box. "Miss Lily?" he asked politely. "Yes. I was asked to bring you this." She opened the box. Inside was a note. And a key. The note read, "No matter where I go, you are my home. I'll be back. Wait for me, just a little longer. E." Lily stared at the note. Then at the key. Marcus spoke softly. "It's for the small house by the market square. Renovated. Furnished. Yours." Lily's eyes filled. Not because she needed it. But because she knew what it meant. He wasn't letting go. The sun hung low, bathing the village in a glow that felt like something from a dream. Children chased shadows across the road. Pots boiled gently over distant fires. And Lily stood outside her small house, the same house that now smelled like soap, roasted corn, and something sweeter, possibility. She held the baby onesie in one hand and the note in the other, her eyes trained on the dirt path that curled between palm trees. She didn't expect the sound at first. Footsteps. Not rushed. Not hesitant. Just steady. She turned slowly. And there he was. Ethan. Walking toward her in a crisp shirt and worn jeans, the late light catching his face. He looked tired, but lighter. Older, but grounded. Their eyes met. And in that instant, neither of them needed to speak. She dropped the onesie and ran. He opened his arms. She landed in them with a sob that didn't ask questions. It simply answered them. Behind them, villagers paused to smile. A few clapped softly. No one interrupted. Because sometimes, a moment belongs to just two people, even if the whole world is watching. That evening, they sat outside the house, her belly resting gently beneath his palm. "I tied up everything," he said. "Gave up my seat on the board. Sold my shares. I'm free." She raised an eyebrow. "You gave up a billion-dollar empire?" He kissed her knuckles. "For something worth more." She was quiet, thoughtful. "I was scared," she admitted. "That you'd forget. That the city would swallow you again." "I almost did," he confessed. "But the farther I got, the louder your voice became." What was it saying? "Come home." She smiled. 2 weeks later, under the shade of a mango tree, surrounded by family, villagers, and the smell of roasted corn and pepper soup, Ethan and Lily said their vows. It wasn't a grand wedding. It was real. There was music. Laughter. Dance. She wore yellow, the color of corn and strength. He wore white, the color of peace and new beginnings. And when they danced, their movements slow and full of story, everyone watched not just a couple, but a miracle. A man who lost everything. A woman who had nothing. And a love that started over fire and smoke. Months later, in a quiet delivery room, Lily gave birth to a baby girl. Ethan cried first. Lily cried louder. They named her Amara, which means, grace. Because everything they had was never perfect, but it was gracefully earned.